Hello and welcome to our webinar. It's Digital Content Factory in Action, 5 Principles to Start and Reap the Benefits. So thanks a lot for joining. We promise a great time and many insights on this hot topic and the issue that are haunting the pharma industry today. So we will today talk about changes. Changes in the industry, changes in the technology, and changes in the mindset. The world is changing faster than we are, and we should answer how we can keep our strategy for content creation at pace with those changes. However, let us start with the introduction first. So my name is Ruslana. I'm head of sales here at Viseven in the US office, and together with me here is my colleague from the US, Leonardo Sanchez, who is business development manager. Hi, Leo. How are you doing today?
Hi, Rusalana. Thank you very much. I'm doing well. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for asking.
I'm glad to hear it. I'm super excited to be able to join today. So let's get it kicked off. Before we get started, we just wanted to let everybody that's attending that we did save a good amount of time today after our presentation for a Q&A session. So feel free to prepare your questions. So that way, after our presentation, we would love to answer them. So moving on to our agenda, what we're going to be speaking today during our presentation is talking about, number one, the content production in pharma, Viseven's change management cornerstones, the 5 principles of a successful digital content factory experience, modular approach in action, digital content factory solution journey overview and the benefits. And to wrap it all up, we're going to show you guys a case study. And like I mentioned before, after the case study, after we finished everything in our presentation, love to answer all any questions that you guys may have.
Good. So we'll start about the content production in pharma. So main takeaways from the market are that pharma companies produce huge amount of the content, and this amount is growing each year. 58% of pharma and biotech companies spend more than 5 million a year. And in 2020, the healthcare companies spent overall 33% of their budgets on content. So it's fantastic. Everyone seems to be really crazy about the content, but the budget for the content does not grow exponentially as the need for the content does, right? What is more, we must be clear that today's issues for content production not only take a significant part of our budget, and figures on the slide show that, right? But they also are responsible for the loss of our most valuable assets, creativity and strategic thinking, because we're always in a hurry. So what precedes these costs? We have the numerous challenges when producing the content, and it is followed by a tangled mass of challenges that we face each time we create a digital asset. First comes a lack of inconsistent processes, where we can't see the root cause and eventually result having bottlenecks that are difficult to manage. Also, because of the inconsistent process, a marketeer finds it difficult to reuse the existing digital assets. And he needs to find them first, then he needs to translate them, even before he decides that he would like to use them in the field, right? So usually it is easier for the local marketeer to start even from scratch rather than invest in reuse that is so unpredictable. Next one is lack of clear messaging. So it's not that we really miss the messages, we have a lot, but what about the personalized experience, right? How we adjust the key messages to the actual need of the client and the target audience. Here's where we again invest more and more with seemingly no possibility to optimize. Of course, MLR is next, is complex approval process. It's another bottleneck that ends up having longer time to market and missed deadlines. Final one is the lack of collaboration of global teams, as well as streamlined process of reuse and repurpose global to local. So content is fun, it needs fresh ideas, and it needs to be insightful and inspiring. But the process that is behind of its creation is not at all inspiring. It is slow, expensive, and complex.
Eventually, we all strive for digital transformation, but we must keep in mind that it goes hand in hand with omni-channel technologies. It entered the pharma mainstream as a key component to deliver top-notch experiences to the HCPs. Ideally, all components needed for omni-channel content management would be globally accessible and integrated. The reality, however, may be disruptive. We see here that 26% of pharma companies deal with content localization and translation issues. There's no easy or efficient way to modify or localize the content internally. 30% consider digital execution across marketing team and all business units a challenge. Why is that? Because there's a lack of communication and integrations between the ecosystems. 42% report their organization hasn't acquired the right technology to manage content across the enterprise. We have seen pharma struggle to store all their assets in an orderly fashion in order for departments, regions, and countries to have access for them so that they can localize it or modify it to their specific needs. 71% report that their challenges with prioritizing marketing effort toward one audience over another. The lack of omni-channel customer journeys with different channels can be used with the help of AI communication and help communicate with those HCPs when, where, and how they want. For example, 45% of marketeers don't have the right technology in place to manage this content. The other 38 report that their organization can rarely, never, or ever publish content to these multiple channels in the appropriate format. These are only a few issues we're facing when it comes to omni-channel content production. All of them require a whole chain of dedicated professionals. Not only does a good digital content factory help you overcome all of these business, time, cost obstacles, but it can also help you reach your customers in a more personalized way. 84% of consumers say they like being treated like a person, not a number. Is a very important way to win their business. It has come to a pivotal model when the module known as Digital Content Factory, DCF, has become so widely used that by 2030, its overall revenue is promised to exceed a whopping $4.5 billion. So, as we mentioned before, the COVID outbreak has just caused a drastic change for all of us. From engaging face-to-face to more digital, the trend for personalization content is storming the pharma industry with no end in sight. Thus, we are bombarding HCPs with thousands of emails and other messages, tearing apart between non-structured in-house content and the one from the agency side. But we can hardly call it personalization when we use it blindly. To reach customers with the right message, it must be perfectly tailored to their needs by reaching them again when, where, and how they want. So, can we put this process on track? With the use of the right platform, ecosystem, and the use of always developing AI technology, we can engage our customers exactly the way they want to get the best effective connection.
Yeah, having said that, we want to highlight the business challenges, right? Just saying that there are most of them can be, put in a list of 6 most important challenges. So, first challenge is defining the proper process to align all of the parties involved for content creation process improvement and optimization. Next one is modules. So modular approach is another stumbling point. Most companies are not ready to implement this approach because it's relatively new, and most vendors lack supportive backup proof and change management plan to ensure that it works. It is also important to make sure that the vendor is ready from the technical perspective as well. Number 3 is MLR. Again, MLR looks challenging as historically in high compliant environment like pharma, it seems one of the area that is tricky to try to optimize. Another one is tagging and taxonomy. So holistic approach to tagging and taxonomy would mean that companies need to rethink their content structure, execute deep mapping of the content, do this housekeeping to set the technical foundation for the upcoming changes end to end. in order to make content easy to search on the one hand, while make it traceable on the other. So the idea is that we can actually measure the impact. This is the big dream of a marketer, right? Not only to send the message into the field, but also be able to measure the impact, to see what resonates, and then adapt the strategy wisely. While we talk about vendors, more often than not, it is difficult to coexist for multiple vendors. And this is exactly what is needed whenever a company wants to launch content reuse top-down and transcreate based on the global master content and one unified standard. And last but not least is reuse. It's not only about the beauty of the consistency across markets and the power of the strategic positioning. While reuse is also about shortening the time to market and saving of the costs. So local markets need not to start from scratch ever, right? They can localize and transcreate based on something that is already available, let's say in their DAM system, and they can reuse it as approved content, but just taking it from there and actually reusing, right? So then we come to the idea of change management. So here at Viseven, we actually have already developed their main cornerstones that make this change possible, because it's not about the change for change, but it's about making the difference. So the idea is, I will talk a little bit about how Viseven manages it. So first, of course, this is about the culture. Well, this is the understanding of the necessity for change that is the key success factor, and that is actually driving the whole process. We also ensure that the client is committed to the defined target state, and he votes for this by allocating his responsible personnel, investing his time for making it happen, because otherwise it will not gonna work. Next one is communication strategy. We have the strategy in place to properly onboard the client's personnel and the agencies at the early stage, so that we can actually cooperate and co-create. Of course, there's always resistance to changes. So this is problem number one when we start trying to kick the new project off, right? And we are responsible for the training of the stakeholders based on the level of the maturity. So we're willing to actually adjust all of the materials accordingly through setting the relevant KPI. So change implementation is a process that looks like something like a moving target, right? At each of the stages, KPI will be different, and the target solution may also be different at different stages. And we are able to adapt in an agile way. Of course, setting proper KPI is very closely connected and directly impacting the ROI. So we define this at the discovery stage to then be able to scale and update. Discovery is also a moment to evaluate and plan risk, all of the risk mitigation in different scenarios. So we really need to consider what can go wrong or what can go not really good, so that we can actually plan how we can mitigate this risk and meet them. Yeah, and by the way, I want to also highlight that a couple of years ago, all the projects were actually simpler, and our change management activities were completely different, and they even came at the later stage in the project. It was about finding the responsible person or a champion who is committed to the result through his personal KPI. So landscape is completely different right now. The projects for digital transformation demand cooperation within different teams and alignment on various levels. So in current projects, change management plan is deeply intertwined with all of the activities that we and our partners execute at all of the stages. So now Leo will walk you through the principles for the proper DCF launch.
So we have the 5 principles of successful DCF experience. This is the part of rethinking content in life sciences. We have collaborated with many customers who have been interested in this sort of reform. And in all cases, there are these 5 prerequisites to making a successful transition. First off, focusing on the customer experience. By segmenting your database and understanding which channel is best suited for your HCP, as well as which type of content. Using AI technology also empowers you to understand when they want to be reached. This can be just not only for content, but can also be for campaigns and customer journeys. Next step, accelerating content production using a digital content factory as the workflow framework. With the proper digital content factory, you can produce and reuse your digital content by using your KPIs to see which content and/or channel is best used when engaging with certain HCPs. That way, you're able to reuse the proper materials or the proper channels in the right ways. The ones that don't work can be modified and tested again, which leads me to the next one. Being able to afford experiments. Each HCP is different, so it's important to try different types of content between emails, e-detailing, e-learning, websites, landing pages, etc., to see if these are a better way to get your customers to engage and retain the information you're sharing with them. Again, with the proper ecosystem, you'll be able to get the right analysis so that you can adapt to their needs. Getting the right talent present on board with any new adaptation or change requires for change management, and finding how to better use your team or add others to join your team. This is always one of the scariest parts, but highly crucial and highly beneficial long term. Of course, last but not least, content modularization that empowers all of this. With all of these tied together, modularizing your content can become a reality, and your overall digital process will be more fluid, optimized, and efficient.
Yeah, we usually start all the conversations around modular approach by actually defining what is a module, and we are trying to get aligned on the glossary so that everyone is aligned. So there is a lot of complexity around modules. So I will try to use this nice and funny example. Have you ever tried Love is Chewing Gum? It's really popular product here in Europe, which is not about the gum itself, but about the messages that each of the items contain. So inside of the wrapper, you find a piece of a paper with a sweet message like the one on the slide, right? And it's always the same template, so always the same expectation, but only that the message and the image is different, and each of them kind of reinforce each other. So image may not fully reveal the idea, and the message is sometimes not strong enough without a cute image, right? So the same about modules. Module is a piece of a standalone content that has a context and a meaning, right? So even if we take the image and the message out of this template, they will still make sense. Modules do exactly the same. So hence modules may be approved for use no matter what channel we're using them in, right? And sometimes even no matter what setting, because they're interchangeable and they are free. It streamlines MLR and improves time to market. Also, modules can be channel agnostic. Here's how we can actually influence the cost by inserting one and the same module in email, then in e-detailing, then in the landing page, for example. So Leo, what about the US market? Do you have the same fun example for the module?
Yes, actually, indeed we do. I know right now with Halloween being this week and growing up here in the US, we have a similar kind of piece of gum called Bazooka, and it has the same exact modular chemistry approach. So we have the template that has the bazooka and its gang. We all know what that is. There's nothing more that needs to be inserted. But when you add the key message in the image, and which is part of the module, as you can see over here, now you have a comic strip and you have the message. Now, the message itself could be kind of funny. The image a little confusing. But when you put the key message with the image into a module, it becomes something more powerful, more meaningful, more understandable. And when you add it to your template, well, then you get a funny joke. And again, bazooka gum, yes, as delicious as it may be, most of us that eat bazooka gum, we go there for the comic strip. And as Ruslana was saying, we use the same template. Every piece of gum has a different module, a different key message, a different image, but overall, we are understanding that it is a Bazooka Joe and his gang comic strip to get a final digital asset. I hope everyone's excited for Halloween as much as I am with our Bazooka gums. We're going to move over to the next slide where we're going to talk a little bit more about how we implement this a little bit more with our digital assets in terms of pharma. So here's an example of how we reuse on already pre-approved content rich modules. All of these modules are adaptable for different channels: email, e-detailing, messenger, website, etc. Using these, again, pre-approved modules, we're able to easily place them in templates in order to keep the same standard throughout the brand product and help give the same look and feel within all channels. Here we have the final content assembly. We have our modules, which we have our images. We have our key messages. These are already pre-approved. We have our template. We understand that we are talking about this brand specifically. But once we add the modules, we're giving a little bit more context to it. So that way we have, again, our final content assembly, which with all these modules, if they are pre-approved, cuts that time to MLR time by 30%. We have a little slow. So now we want to present with you a transformation journey to future-ready content management. Rusalana, how can I get my team and digital assets to that modular state that we've been talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk about digital content factory solution journey overview, right? And so like people, no organization is same like other, right? So companies are different and their transformation journey are not the same because they are at each point of time, they're different level of digital maturity, right? So we have defined roughly 3 stages of readiness of clients, and they are moving from one to another as they progress. So stage 1 is called structured and connected content. This is seamless content flow across all platforms that bring in transparency and increase their use. So the idea here is to bring the content to one unified standard so that we can start reuse it at least on the template level, right? So here we are talking about integrations, process flow, standardization, and unification. Next stage is introduction of modules. So at this initial stage, they, like at first of this stage, they even can be channel specific, and then they move to being agnostic. So we first implement key messages and start tracking them based on the modules, and then based on this we can start optimizing the MLR process, right? So here is the process where we actually need also to consider connection the claims to the key messages, and then we can logically move to stage 3, which is structured modular content that includes automation and personalization engine. And this is robust solution where we introduce auto tagging mechanism and start create personalized content based on the cross-channel modules. So we can use data to make better decisions for content creation, and even can start automating the content production based on the suggestions mechanism. So this is the level of intelligent content, and this means you harness the power of automation. You make use of content auto tagging to allow machine learning to do much of most of the work for you. Also, this leverages data, allows you to A/B test safely, and importantly, it allows very wide possibilities of personalization at healthcare professional level, right, at low cost. So now we will highlight what are the 6 benefits of the suggested ways of working.
As mentioned before, all change is a little scary. It takes a little time, takes some change management. But when you look at all these key benefits to this modular approach to your business, it makes perfect sense. The first key benefit, of course, is faster time to market. And the reasons why companies are implementing digital content factories are not limited to efficient content production. It also comes to time. As together with our customers, we observed a dramatic reduction in time to market. As it turns out that up to 50% of the time can be spared by smart governance and modular approach. All of these are achievable with structured modular content that is always at the heart of a digital content factory. Moving on to our second key benefit, which is cost reduction. We would emphasize that you no longer need to pay for developing the same code again and again. Instead, you can reuse what you already have and spend dramatically less on manual work. This saves up to 60% based on the KPIs in our projects. But we're not speaking just about numbers, and speaking about the most important thing is that you can invest more of your most valuable assets, which are creativity and strategic thinking. Our third key benefit is improved brand governance over your content. Another advantage is that the brand strategy gets a firmer grip on what the content tells the HCP. There's more consistency. There's more possibilities to adapt the content to any particular region or campaign or even persona. As we all know, branding is key. Our fourth one is a more solid MLR approval. Another area of improvement is MLR. We all know, we all struggle with this, but where turnaround time is reduced by approximately 30% using a digital content factory. It is possible due to many factors, including the fact that modules can be pre-approved. And our eWizard platform, we can even have a functionality that allows highlighting of the modules in the PDF generated for MLR, so that when it's approved, it is highlighted and the MLR reviewer does not have to continue to waste time looking at something that's been pre-approved. Moving on to our fifth benefit, support of omni-channel communication. Create customer journeys that react to how HCPs are reacting to material. These, of course, can be campaigns as well. And with the help of AI technology, you can set up the proper journey or a campaign depending on if they open an email, register for an event, or just plain ignore your email. You can even change the channel for better effectiveness. So of course, depending on how they react to your first email, we can set up different types of journeys to engage them in a different way. And again, how, when, and how they want to. Last but not least, the sixth benefit is what we all strive for, a higher HCP engagement. As you get to produce more personalized content, the HCPs consume the information they actually need and feel it as an experience when you engage with them with your content, where, when, and how they want. And in the omnichannel campaigning, as they say, the more personalization swamps more data, and more data enables even more personalization.
Yeah, but that's always better to actually prove the efficiency by showing the actual results with the case. So here's one. We had a case with one of the top pharmaceutical companies who's our client. I was interested in the building of the seamless and unified approach for working with content both globally and locally. So this case study showed that covers the entire process of knowledge transfer on our modular approach technology and content creation. So what were the prerequisites? We had the digital assets management and CRM system in place, which was Viva, and it actually is Viva with this client, right? That was content authoring solution, which is a wizard, and there was single global agency to like a solution for development, right? So what were the challenges? So the client was facing the rising expectations for more engaging and personalized content. And the problem was that the time to market was really high because the MLR started, there was really time-consuming MLR as the amount of content was progressing. So there was the cost pressure in conflict with the brand promotion requirement and budget. And they actually needed the more efficient transcreation and global to local transition, which would mean for them not only translation, but actual localization. So being able to transcreate efficiently. So what we put as targets for us in this project, which lasted around 3 months. First, we started with building a strong cross-functional team to enable modularization, but actually that was the first step in change management, to enable the team both on our side and on the client side, that the team was divided into the working streams, and each of the streams worked in parallel to then unite their effort and start proof of concept of the MVP. So our target was streamlining transcreation processes, because we're already done with the client the templates and started working with master content, right? So we needed to go for next move, and next move was about modular. So also the target was to reduce the workload and resource consumption for content authoring. That would result in fast delivery, so that we can meet requirements with no additional cost. So actually, this company was not a newcomer, was not a fresher, right? The company had solid experience with digital content development, and they were using a Wizard platform to facilitate content authoring. However, due to the absence of the structured approach to content production, the content requests exceeded the capacities. So in order to further optimize time efficiency when developing content and step on the next level, in order to grow the digital potential, the company was determined to master a more quick and efficient way of content production, so they opted for a modular approach that was supported by a wizard. So what did we do? So this is a to-do list, like a roadmap, what we started with and how the process went. So first, of course, what the strategy comes first. So the first step was to define the main claims and wrap them in modules that live in Viva and can be reused. In parallel, we created master templates for all of the channels with correct placeholders for the modules, and onboarded the creative agencies to empower them to create corresponding media in the right way. Step 3, alignment strategy with modular thinking. We united the results of work at stage 1 and 2, and we had what we got as a result were the ready assets to use on the global level. Then, as soon as modules were prepared, in terms of design, size, tags, taxonomy, they were ready to be inserted in the relevant placeholders. So you can search for modules based on the tags applied. So what did we do with this? We actually had the templates and modules. Now the marketeers could come in their DM system, digital assets management system, look for the module that corresponding to the search entry, right, and actually have the modules to use, and they could reuse actually the master content by localizing it. So after we piloted the approach within the proof of concept in a small group, and that was like a user acceptance testing as well, we were ready to scale and onboard new teams, meaning new affiliates, to start measuring the efficiency based on the KPI that we defined at the beginning of the process. So as you see, this is a roadmap that, this 5 steps, but measure efficiency was at, and still is at each of the stages. The only thing is that the KPI can be different at different stages of maturity. So now, Leah, I think you can share the outcomes, what we actually reached in this project.
Absolutely. So of course, with our outcomes, with all the steps that we just took, from the strategic part to the implementing of the templates to really starting to scale, we were able to see a reduction in content production time using our platform of eWizard. For emails, the ready-to-send versions were assembled 3 times faster. Overall content development was reduced by 45% by using modular content. MLR turnaround time was reduced by 28% by having pre-approved modules. You had a savings of 25% on content transcreation at a local level by using a single ecosystem and platform. And of course, a clear and robust working module in place.
Yeah, well, I think this is it. I think that I see that we have a couple of questions in the chat, so we will be able to take those, right? So probably we can take those one by one or just how we want to try. But just to top it on the case, in case you think that your situation that you face in the company is different, don't hesitate to come to us and say, guys, we have a totally different situation. We have more cases to share, right? So don't hesitate to email us. You'll have the final slide with our emails soon on the screen. So come for more business cases, and we will gladly share. So I will read a couple of questions because we still have time. So do you think digital content factory is just a necessary prerequisite to implement modular content? Does it have its own intrinsic value without modularization? In your opinion, are these two sides of the same metal or independent phenomena? So, I think that DCF and modular approach, of course, can exist separately, and you can start implementing modular approach separately and DCF separately, but they are reinforcing each other. So I would say that yes, they are the two sides of the same medal, because without DCF you don't get the enough volume for actually creating the modules. You basically the cost for the assets is will be really higher, and you will not reach the same efficiency. But if company is comfortable starting with modular by only setting the technical foundation, by the way, we also have such cases where the clients only want to, proof of concept because he's not sure. So it's absolutely fine. You do not need to have DCF first and then, proof of concept the modular. But obviously the savings and the impact is absolutely different when you actually have both in place. Leo, would you like me to read next question for you?
Sure, let's do that.
So next question is, does the content factory approach help to increase compliance in materials?
Actually, Ruslan, do you want to take this one real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is really connected, right?
I was going to say, it seems like we're kind of what we just talked about with having everything, all the content factory producing all of the material in compliance with obviously MLR. But I'll let you know because you were just finishing up that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. We mentioned that MLR is really the part of it. Another question is, what is your recommendation on how to manage key messages? Well, that's a really great question. Thank you so much for this. Basically, our recommendation is actually to cooperate together with the global marketing team of the client, because no one knows it better, no one knows the strategy better. But of course, as soon as key messages are ready, we are our recommendation would be to connect them to claims and actually set them in piece in their digital assets management system, because then that later then can be connected to the modules. And whenever they connected to module, then you can actually measure the impact of your key message based on the usage of the module. So it's like, it's interconnected. It's first you put in the key message into the claim, and then you tag the module with this claim. And then whenever you're using this module in any channel, you can actually track the impact. So I do hope I answered this question, Fabrizio, right? That was the question from Fabrizio. So, but if not, just let us know, and we can catch up and go in more detail.
I have these two questions that kind of go hand in hand here. Can you explain your highlighting feature for regulatory? Is this Veeva's capability with their pipeline or yours, which is different? And I think it kind of goes in hand with, are your clients managing their claims in Veeva? And that seems like a large hurdle to obtain a module. So I will start really quick, and then Ruslan, of course, please interject if there's anything I'm missing. But one of the great functionalities that we have with eWizard, and we are actually a partner with Veeva. So Veeva right now is also trying to really work on modular content, and we're working with them on that sense. So when we create a module within our platform of eWizard, you do directly publish it over to Viva for MLR approval. Once it's approved, it actually gets stored in your Viva's DAM or promo mats as an approved asset, as approved module with all the assets that are in there, being image, being text, being anything that you put in there. And then when you use that module for another piece of content that you're using, whether it be emails or e-detailing, and you add obviously different pieces, but you keep that module unchanged, when you publish it back to Viva for MLR approval, the highlighting aspect is it gets shown as the module gets highlighted on the outside in green, saying that this was pre-approved, where the other sections will be highlighted or boxed out in red, where it says that these are not pre-approved. So that way, at the point of MLR approval with Viva, they are focusing more on the red sections than the green module. If there is any change within that module that is already pre-approved, it will actually show in there that it used to say a certain word and now it has been changed to another word. So again, when it is being approved by MLR, it's able to catch the eye right away. Instead of spending time checking the whole piece, they can just see that one little change in that module, or hopefully nothing at all. So hopefully that kind of answers the highlighting capabilities that we have within our eWizard that are tied in with Viva, as well as how we're able to overcome this large hurdle, because we have definitely heard this before. How are you able to create modules and have them pre-approved so that it fits nicely into the content? And because we are working with Viva, it does become a little bit easier.
Yeah, I think with this, you also covered another question from Kristen, right? Are your clients managing the claims in Viva? That seems like a large hurdle to obtain a module, right?
Yep, I think I got those two questions answered, correct.
Yeah. Another one is from Maxime, is asking, does your product integrate with CRM systems developed by other companies? For example, a client likes using Microsoft Dynamics CRM and wants to connect it to Wizard. Did you have any technical issues? So in the first place, our modular approach that we have developed in partnership with Viva is first of all aligned with Viva products, right? Of course, the other clients who are not using the DAM system like PromoMats should not be deprived of this approach, but it will look a bit different, right? But the idea is that the content is traceable by the systems where we actually use the content. I mean, whenever we send the web triggered email, our CRM system needs to actually record all of the KPI. The same about the interactive content. So being honest with you, we didn't have the case with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. I don't know if they have the capability of showing the HTML5 content and everything that is connected, right? Modules come next. So then I think that we can get in touch with you after the webinar and actually look closer into this case because it seems interesting, right? And I think whatever the system that has API, I think we are able to integrate. And when it comes to modules, we need to check if this is possible or not. So we still have time for more questions. But one more question, isn't the challenge with Vault PromoMat that we can manage the text fragments? Isn't the challenge with Vault PromoMat that we can't manage text fragments? Well, I would say that probably the question is not really clear to me, but if we talk about fragments, that fragment will be the same template of a higher level as opposed to module, right? So a module will be inserted in a fragment as in the same way as it's inserted in email or in a email for the mass mailing or in the presentation. So it's gonna be working exactly the same. And yes, module can be consistent of text only. It's not necessarily image plus message, right? But by all means, it's always the any type of media that has full meaning and cannot be interpreted otherwise, right? And also is backed up with a reference. So this makes absolute sense that whenever it's like this, and this is the module that can be then used either within a fragment or within a ready-made email, or be incorporated within a slide or a landing. So I hope I answer it, but again, because the question is not really clear, you also can, let's get in touch after the webinar so that we can discuss in more detail. All right, guys.
Say that if anyone's interested in watching to see exactly how we do have those integrations between Viva and our platform so that they can see it more visually, yes, please don't hesitate to talk to us, and we'd love to show you how that's possible.
Yeah, because what we talked about is like cases. It's good to see the nice slides and funny images. But we also have the hands-on demo, and we will be more than happy to allocate 20 minutes of our time, probably any possible slot that you have to show you how it actually works with Viva and how actually this integration works. So thank you so much for your time. That was a pleasure to have you all at this webinar.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Leo. Have a good day, everyone.
Happy Halloween for everyone that celebrates it as well. Take care.
Yeah, you take care, guys. Bye-bye.